Good evening, and welcome to Evanston Township High School. If you will look around to your right and left, you will notice that there's some incredible leaders, former athletes, coaches, that represent the best of Evanston and Evanston Township High School. There's so many, in fact, that if I started down that dangerous road of naming one or two or three, I'd have to name off 50 other people. But I just want you to take a look around at the incredible people and leaders that are assembled here today in honor of Coach May. I'm Chris Levatino. I'm the athletic director at ETHS, and I want to welcome each and every one of you to this special Willie May Fieldhouse dedication ceremony. Now, before we begin, I want to just address one issue right at the start of this special event. Everybody knows that one of the hallmarks for Coach May was his incredible humility. So I find it very interesting that on this day, Coach May took the liberty to ask the favor from the big guy for the big snowstorm to shut everything down. So there's only one event at Evanston Township High School, and that's this event today. It is an incredible honor for me to serve as the master of ceremonies, if you will, for tonight. I knew Coach May as a former ETHS student athlete. As a coach, he actually hired me when I became head coach here. And then I had the awkward position of serving as his boss, if that's possible, as athletic director from 2006 to 2012. I think everybody knows some of the incredible accomplishments of Coach May, but I'll read off some of the real big ones. Olympic silver medalist at the 1960 Games, 45-year tenure at ETHS as an assistant football coach, assistant and head track and field coach, PE teacher, and athletic director. As a head coach, he led the Kits to 5 state trophies, including the state championship in 1979. He won 26 Central Suburban League championships, including an unbelievable run of 24 consecutive titles. He developed over 50 state medalists. Coach May has been inducted into the ETHS Athletic Hall of Fame, the Indiana University Athletic Hall of Fame, the Illinois Track and Cross Country Coaches Association Hall of Fame, and the Chicagoland Sports Hall of Fame, in addition to being named the greatest athlete in the history of Blue Island High School. And while all the trophies and medals distinguish Coach May in the history books, what will always define Coach May for me was the grace, humility, and strength with which he carried himself and his teams at Evanston Township High School. In a word, he was our nobility. While soft-spoken, the power of his raspy voice inspired and elevated his student athletes on and off the oval to great heights in track, in school, and most importantly in life. He was also a great mentor to many ETHS coaches as a colleague and athletic director. Whether it was a story from another era or just the perfect quote, Coach May knew how to advise a coach on how to handle a situation without having to tell the coach what to do. He put his trust in your decision, and you made sure you did not disappoint Coach May. I miss seeing his slow, steady stride around this very field house, and I miss his warm smile and confidence in the athletic office. I am just very thankful he was able to touch the lives of thousands of Evanston students, including myself, in so many ways during his 45-year reign at ETHS. I'd like to now introduce one of our greatest cheerleaders and supporters in athletics, our superintendent, Dr. Eric Witherspoon.
Well, thanks, Chris, and to everybody, hello. It is great to have you here. I got to tell you that in the last few years, and just like recent years, we have put a new roof on the field house. We have redone all of the interior ceiling. We have redone all the windows. We have redone and repainted all of the walls and all the pads. We have redone the floor. The roof we put on it failed. The warranty was good, and we put another roof on the place. And once we had this facility the way it should be, that it was worthy of being named the Willie May Fieldhouse. Today, we're here for that dedication. One thing that has made this possible is that we have a school board that agreed to a policy now several years ago in which we would rarely but occasionally honor somebody with huge significance to ETHS with the naming of a facility. We haven't done it very many times. And the way the policy works, there might be 3 to 4 more in the next 20 years at the most. But it's because of a school board that realizes that we have people like Willie May that deserve the honor. They have not only supported the policy, but the board approved the naming and the dedication of this field house. So we have the board president with us today, and I want to introduce her, Pat Savage Williams. So you're going to hear a lot about Willie May. I got here in time, 2006, Chris. I was here when Chris started as the AD. So I got in on a little bit of the Willie May era, but I feel as if Willie is a part of everything we do here. I mean, he truly is legend. And I know that your family knows that. I know that everybody who's here knows that. And to the young people here today, listen carefully, because if you don't know about Willie May, you're going to find out about a very, very remarkable human being. And I think what's really significant is today, and this naming, is a celebration of his remarkable life and his remarkable legacy. And we're blessed that he called himself a Wildcat. It is a great day to be a Wildcat. So at this time, we have an extra little honor that we're so fortunate that this worked out. We have the mayor of the city of Evanston with us today, and he has a proclamation to read. And so it's my pleasure to introduce Mayor Steve Haggerty.
Well, I've got to say, I appreciate Willie May intervening with Mother Nature and allowing me to be here, because I didn't think I was going to be able to be here. But the airport issues and everything else blessed me with the opportunity to be here with all of you. And issue this proclamation. Proclamations are pretty great things as a mayor to be able to issue. You know, there's celebrations, and there's lots of challenges in the world, but there's lots of things that we need to and ought to celebrate, including the difference that remarkable people make in our lives. So with that, let me go ahead and issue this. It's the, I proclaim today the Willie L. May Day. Whereas Willie L. May was a multi-sport athlete and Olympic medalist, and whereas Willie brought home a silver medal in the 110-meter hurdles at the 1960 Olympic Games in Rome, and whereas Willie won 7 Big Ten championships in the hurdles as a student athlete at Indiana University, and whereas Willie May was a long-standing employee and supporter of Evanston Township High School, its students, and its track program. And whereas Willie coached football and track and field for over 45 years. And incredible. And whereas Willie enjoyed working with kids to help them develop their talents and achieve success in academics. And whereas Willie served as head coach from 1975 to 2006, winning 5 IHSA state trophies, including the state championship in 1979, 24 consecutive Central Suburban League championships, and developed over 50 state medalists. And whereas in 1983, Willie became the first African-American athletic director at Evanston Township High School. a position he held for 16 years. And whereas Willie was a true mentor to one and all, now therefore, I, Stephen Howard Haggerty, the mayor of the city of Evanston, do hereby proclaim today, February 9th, 2018, as Willie L. May Day. In memory of his significant achievements and in recognition and honor of the renaming of the indoor track and field house at Evanston Township High School to the Willie May Field House. I know his wife Norma May is here and is gonna speak. Norma, where are you? I just want to say I wish I knew your husband. He was truly a remarkable person, and as a student athlete myself growing up, I know the difference the coach has made in my life. So thank you for all your commitment and your family's commitment to Evanston.
Thank you again, Mayor Haggerty, for being here and bestowing this wonderful honor and proclamation on Coach May's behalf. Before I introduce our next speaker, I think one of the most incredible accomplishments of Coach May's life occurred before he came to us at Evanston Township High School as an Olympic athlete. And I would love to take the credit for having the foresight and vision and proper planning to say that we purposely planned to have today's ceremony on the opening day of the Winter Olympic Games, but it was all luck. But that being said, he was an incredible Olympic athlete, and we have here a letter from the president of the U.S. Olympians and Paralympians Association, Dick Fosbury, most famous for the Fosbury flop. And I'm not going to read the whole letter because it's rather extensive. But I do want to quote Diane Simpson, an ETHS Olympic gold medalist who's with us here today. Diane, do you want to stand up? And she says in the letter, I recall Willie standing on the sideline outside school, pulling me aside during gym class and telling me how great to get the chance to compete at the highest level, to travel through sport, and for him to now be able to give back through his teaching. Years later, how amazing it was to be by his side as we tried to bring the Olympic Games back to the U.S. during the Chicago 2016 Olympic bid. So he was proud of being an Olympian, and he was proud of the Olympic spirit. And we are lucky today to be joined by one of his teammates who he happened to edge out just barely in the 1960 games, but who still won a bronze medal and came back to the 64 games to win his own Olympic gold medal. Please welcome Hayes Jones.
Thanks, Chris. Mayor Haggerty, Superintendent Witherspoon, the other honored and distinguished speakers, track teammates of this high school, coaches, Olympic champion, the other Olympic champions in this room, the May family, and friends of Willie May. All too often, persons' outstanding accomplishments or their contributions in life are seldom remembered and rarely celebrated. And it is indeed an honor to be here today to join with you in the naming of this wonderful facility, the Willie May facility. With that said, I just would like to talk a little more about the legacy of Willie May. But first, to the May family, and especially to you, Norma, I took the liberty of reaching out to the world's record holder of the 110-meter hurdles by the name of Martin Lauer, who lives in Nuremberg, Germany. Martin Lauer was in the 1956 Melbourne Olympic Games as a decathlon, and he placed fourth in the 110-meter hurdles in 1960. We still communicate to this day, and I visited he and his wife Krista in Nuremberg in 2003, and we sat in his back room, in his backyard, drinking champagne and eating caviar, reminiscing about the 1960 Olympic Games. And he sent me an email and he said, "Hayes, please share this with the May family." I wish to say to Willie's family that I never forget Willie as my most important fellow on my way to breaking the world's record in 1959 in Zurich, Switzerland, in the 110-meter hurdles and the 200-meter hurdle. And I have pictures to give to you to show how Willie chased Martin Lauer to the world's record in 1959. And Martin Lauer continued to say, "I better have not done so, because Willie, like you, Hayes, and Lee Calhoun, was warned enough to beat me in the Olympic finals in Rome, 1960. So again, I got another Olympic fourth place medal in the hurdles. No hurdle medal for me, what a pity. But nevertheless, my deepest respect for Willie and all my other glorious American competitors over the high hurdles. Martin Lauer. And I'll give this to you as well. Sports is a microcosm of the large issue of life itself. It narrows down to an athlete surviving or excelling in conditions in which maximum use of his or her necessary skills is necessary in order to survive or to succeed. Throughout my college career, Willie May was one of my fierce competitors, along with Lee Calhoun, who's in the picture there. During my college years, Willie May and Lee Calhoun continued to nip at my heels, because in the indoor meets, no one could defeat Hayes Jones, because I was really a sprinter converted to be a hurdler. I was known as a very fast starter. And knowing Willie May being 6'11" and Lee Calhoun being 7 feet tall, it took them time to gain their speed. The race was over indoors. But outdoors was a different story. I had to train harder in order to win. But in 1960, the sports reporters voted that I was going to come home with the gold medal. Evidently, Willie May did not get that message. There was one thing about Willie May. You can beat him today, you can beat him tomorrow, but he would always get up, dust himself off, and he would say, it's a new day. And in 1960, Willie May found his rhythm. In the Olympic trials, Willie May defeated me. In the Olympic Games, Willie May defeated me. But if you really study that final race, I would say that Willie May ran the gold medal race. Back when we were running, the way that you determine the winner is not by the head, it's by the torso. And if you look at that finish race, Willie May's torso hit the finishing line first. We can debate this from here to eternity. And I know that all of us who are in this room today, when we receive our calling, we will be sitting in the room, and Willie May and Lee Calhoun will be facing us, telling their story as to who was the actual winner. And you are going to be the jury, and you know how you're going to vote. There will not be 12 on the bench. There will be as many people who really love Willie May and what he gave back to the community. I have one story to tell about Willie May, and this story is going to tell you how much I began to respect Willie May. There was an indoor track meet in Montreal, Canada. I'm sorry, it was in Toronto, Canada, Toronto Maple Leaf Stadium. I was invited, Willie May was invited. But there was a storm that came across Lake Michigan. And Detroit was snowed in. The airport was closed. Chicago was clear. Willie May flew from Chicago to Toronto to participate in that meet. There was no way that I was going to be able to fly to Toronto, so I wouldn't be able to compete against my friend Willie May. But I decided I'm not going to fly. I'm going to get in my little Volkswagen, and I'm going to go across the Detroit River, and I'm going to drive the 4.5 hours to Toronto. And Willie knew that there was a storm in Michigan, and I'm sure that Willie was saying, I got this one, baby. I got to Toronto 2 hours before the meet, rushed to the hockey arena, still had my street clothes on, went into the lavatory, put on my gear, came out onto the track, and there was Willie May. And he said, goodness gracious, I thought I was going to win this meet. And he just laughed. And you couldn't really hate the guy. Because, when you're competing against someone, you really want to be angry and get yourself in the mood to win the race. But Willie, he was just a jovial kind of guy. And I won the race. But you just couldn't hate the guy. And that's when I began to really have a warm feeling for Willie May. And we continue to have that warm feeling after track. There are a lot of advocates who really support Willie May. And 2 years ago, I participated in the 5K run and walk in Atlanta, Georgia, where I now reside. And I'm always the one who leads the bunch. And this one 5K event, there was a young lady who was also participating. And every time I would get close to her, she would want to move further ahead. And after the 5K race, I approached her. And I said, "What's your name?" And she gave her name. I said, "Where are you from?" She said, "I'm from Chicago." I said, "What school did you go to?" She said, "I went to Evanston High School." And I said, "Did you participate in sports?" And she said, "Yes, I ran track." And I said, "Who was your track coach?" "Coach May." And she had this beautiful smile. "He was my track coach. He's the best track coach in the world." So here I am, here in Illinois, at Evanston, and now I can understand the reason why everyone loved Willie May. You can't say a bad thing about Willie May because you would be in trouble. Ladies and gentlemen, it's really my honor to weather the storm to fly here to Chicago to participate in this wonderful moment. And I know Willie is looking down, as Norma said last night. He's shaking his head and says, "What are you doing?" Because that's not Willie May. Thank you very much.
Thank you again, Hayes, for those great stories and memories of Coach May, the athlete. We've put together today's program to sort of walk you through a timeline of Coach May's life. And our next speaker played football for Coach May. And sometimes that aspect of his career here at ETHS gets overlooked. But it doesn't get overlooked by the young men who played football for him, because his impact on their lives was just as significant as those that ran track. And to talk to us today about him as the football coach is one of the gentlemen who really led the charge to have this field house named after Coach May. He is the Cook County Circuit Judge, the Honorable Larry Axelrod.
Well, to the May family and to the Wildcat family, I'm very happy to say welcome to Willie May Fieldhouse. We're gathered here to honor a true champion, Coach Willie May. Chris Levatino told me I have 5 minutes, so I have to be careful and use my time wisely. I'm presenting on behalf of all the young men who played football for Coach May, and sometimes were forgotten because of his prowess and expertise and success as a track coach. And his legacy in track is well known. As an athlete, he was a Big Ten, a national, and an Olympic champion. As a track coach, not only did he produce champion athletes and championship teams, but he has a legacy that had athletes continue to run all of their lives. If you look around, you'll see the people limping are the football players, and the people that look good, they're the tracksters. So other people are going to talk about track. I'm going to talk about football and his coaching prowess in football. So I'm going to take you back, if my math is correct, 44 years. In the fall of 1974, a group of young men entered ETHS with a dream of living up to the high standards of Murney Lazier football at Evanston High School. At the time, Evanston was one of the premier football programs in Illinois, and Coach May was the freshman A coach. He took one look at us and he proclaimed that we were too small, too slow, too weak, too dumb, and we had no discipline. In spite of these shortcomings, he decided to stay on and coach us. To our amazement, the teams that we played every week didn't know about our deficiencies. At some point, a game got canceled, and Coach May scheduled a makeup game. And he didn't tell us until after we won the game that although we were freshmen, we had just beat a sophomore team. He also tried to tell us they weren't a very good sophomore team either. So somehow, some way, at the end of the year, we were 8-1, and our sole loss was to Deerfield. After the game, Coach May apologized to us, and he explained to us that we lost because of him. It was his fault because he had not installed a particular defense that I guess would have made the difference. After that Deerfield game, one of the dads from Deerfield called Coach May and asked about getting a copy of the game film because that dad thought his son had a particularly good game against the Wildcats. I wouldn't say that Coach May was seething. I would say more, let's say, steely determination. Despite our record, Coach May would constantly remind us that, in fact, as he told us in the beginning, we were too small, too slow, too weak, too dumb, and we had no discipline. Coach May knew intellectually that an athlete can strive and aspire for excellence, but that perfection was not possible. Intellectually, he accepted that. For those of us that played for him, we know that emotionally, he never accepted that. We learned one day that Coach May was going to come up and coach us again in our sophomore year, and that was a huge day for all of us. We were very excited. We suspected that he thought we were special and that he wanted to coach us one more year. In retrospect, I think it didn't hurt that there was a Deerfield dad that Coach May wasn't quite done with. There's a saying about football coaches. They say a great football coach can take his squad and beat yours, and he can take your squad and beat his. We went 9-0 sophomore year with Coach May, but he was unable to find anything nice to say about us the entire year. And it was because he didn't praise us for doing something right or correctly. He expected excellence. One time, we were in the film room, and the difference between our film session and the varsity film session was night and day. The varsity players would come in with snacks and beverages and sit back and watch it. We came in with a sweat going, knowing that it was going to be special to have Coach May run that video, or film in that day. So one time, we're there, and it's deadly serious, and there's a group of varsity athletes that were sitting, varsity football players that were sitting there, and then Coach May started the film. In a couple of minutes, they just slunk out of that room, and I think they felt bad for us, but they didn't realize no place else we'd rather be. Coach May would replay a mistake or a mental error over and over again. If someone made a great play, he would gloss over that because that was his expectation. We totally believed that we would win every game that we played and that Coach May would bring out our best. It should be noted that Coach May's favorite expression was discipline. Discipline, men, discipline. We heard that quite a bit. Well, his saying, discipline, was not just an empty mantra. It was instilled in us as a way of life. And I'll give you an example. After two-a-days our freshman year, a great player came out. His nickname was Butter. I don't want to out him, but we'll use his nickname, Butter. It was obvious that Butter would have been a star, an exceptional running back for us, but he missed double sessions. So Coach May sent him down to the B team. Discipline, men, discipline. Now, Butter damn near died on the B team because every time he carried the ball, he ran for a touchdown. He had more 500-yard games than any other running back in the history of American football. And Coach May was somebody that believed that the best man plays. And in football, you had to prove it each and every week. But he also required that everybody who was going to play had earned the right to play. Being the most talented was not enough. You had to work hard and you had to meet his high expectations and principles in order to play. For Coach May, when he espoused these principles, he lived them. Sophomore year, Butter did become a star, but Coach May always paid extra close attention to make sure that Butter never got to cut any corners. During that sophomore year, we did go undefeated, and it included a crushing victory against Deerfield. After the game, Coach May lingered and lingered to give this Deerfield dad the opportunity to come and introduce himself. It never happened. What did happen was that Coach May spent 2 years with a group of boys, and he helped us on a path toward becoming men. Success is nice, but you learn more from failure. To a man, our respect for Coach May has become stronger as we cruised into adulthood. Discipline is important. There's no shame in getting knocked down as long as you get back up. We're now a bunch of old guys, families of our own, and we're here to honor a man that was a huge influence in our lives. He was old school. We are old school. Although we were too small, too slow, too weak, and too dumb to expect much success, he instilled discipline in us. In 2 years, we went 17-1. Imagine what we could have done if we were bigger, stronger, faster, and smarter. Coach May took the blame for our one loss, but he never took credit for our victories. He was humble, yet confident, and he led by example. Simply, he was a great coach because he made each individual athlete soar beyond their potential, and he made each and every team far better than the sum of their parts. We learned that excuses are for cowards. We graciously accepted victory. Defeats caused us to fight back, work harder, and try again. When we're together, and there's a lot of us, and we still get together, Coach May always comes up. And I could tell you stories all night about Coach May, and I can tell you some of his expressions, and we can go all night, and every one of us has a great Coach May story and experience because he touched us deeply. And since my time is up, I'll just end by telling you that we all have a profound respect for him and the lessons that he taught us. He was a true champion, and we're all better people because of Coach May. Thank you.
Thank you, Larry, for those great stories and memories. Larry, along with Coach May's daughters, helped put together this incredible booklet during the nomination process for the facility naming. And I brought a couple of them here, and I have them on the table. So after the ceremony, I hope you guys will take a chance to read through it. A lot of the slides are covered on these pictures up here, but there's some incredible letters in the back that tell the story after story after story of the way that Coach May touched his former student athletes' lives. And so I thank you for being here today and sharing those stories and for putting this incredible tribute together. The next speaker that I'd like to introduce is Mr. Evanston. That might just be the only thing I need to say, but I'll go on. He ran for Coach May back as a wild kid himself, came back to Evanston, taught at Haven, was also principal at Haven, coached. I have to include Haven. You don't talk about Coach Mitchell and not talk about Haven. Coached under Coach May as an assistant coach for many, 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 many years. And when Coach May finally decided to stop serving as our head coach, he only did so knowing that his heir apparent was done serving as principal at Haven and was ready to take on that baton. And so the person who taught me school spirit as a Haven North Star myself, please give a Haven clap to Coach Michelin.
Good evening. When I think of my good friend, Coach May, I think of when he came here in the fall of 1967. Think back what that was like in our nation. Black awareness and black acceptance was sweeping the country. Schools were being torn apart. Sides were being taken at Evanston too. And so he came into that. And I'm thankful that Ron Helberg, very good friends with Coach May, they ran at Blue Island, brought Coach May here to coach hurdles, but he ended up saving the track team and allowing us to meet our opportunities. During that time, meetings were being held, demands were being put together, and we weren't coming to practice. And Coach May went and got us. Me and Coach Harris talked to us. Don't lose your opportunities. You have time to do this when you're better prepared, but don't lose this opportunity. So we went back. We went back to the team, and we didn't lose that opportunity. I'd like for the track coaches to stand up. Many of them have great experiences and great memories of Coach May. Coach May set up my life for me, and I was smart enough not to go against him, but to follow his blueprint that he had set up for me. And because I could run the 100-yard dash in 9.7 in high school, that opened up a lot of doors for me. And I parlayed that. Because of Coach May, I got a scholarship to New Mexico Junior College. We won the national championship. But he set me up. He knew Don Amity at Northwestern University. I'm married with 2 children. Leave New Mexico Junior College, go to Northwestern on a scholarship. Coach May set me up. Graduating from Northwestern with a 3.75 grade point average, Coach May couldn't believe it. Because what it was here was nowhere close to that. But he followed me. I began teaching at Haven Middle School and developing there in 1976. He approached me, probably approached me in the wrong venue. I'm standing outside the barbershop over there with a bunch of the fellas, and we're talking about good old times, and Coach pulls up and says, "Hey, come here, man." So I run across, said, "Hey, Coach, what's happening?" He says, "I've just been hired as the head track coach at Evanston Township." "Congratulations, man." He says, "I want you to be my assistant." Huh? I said, "Man, I'm still running for the University of Chicago Track Club. I don't have time to do that." I can't tell you what he told me. But he pulled off angrily, but he told me not to lose my opportunities, right? They win the state championship in 1979. I could have been there with him. Lost that opportunity. Came on board with him in 81. Okay? And we're at the state meet, and we're not doing well. After doing well all season, we're at the state meet not doing well. And I'm up in the stands watching East St. Louis do this and that. And I said, "Coach, why aren't we doing that?" And he looked at me and said, Whenever you're ready to start, we can do that. And what he was telling me is, don't be critical. Don't be critical. Pick up the banner and you lead it. So we did. And here's what East St. Louis did. They took their kids, and we do this today. They make you 400-meter runners. You run up, you run down. You run the hurdles, you jump. But you're 400 people. With your 400 people, you can put a dynamite 4x800-meter relay together. And they did it every year. And so we started doing that. In fact, some of our 4x8 guys are here in the audience. But that's the type of coach he was. And what he expected out of his coaches. He allowed you to take leadership until May 15th. And that's when the league began. So he took the team over for the good stuff. You know, he's like Uncle Joe. You know who Uncle Joe is? Uncle Joe is the one that's going to drive to Mississippi, right, for family reunion. Everybody get in the car. Uncle Joe gets to the expressway. Then he got to take a nap, and the young people drive it right to Mississippi State line, and Uncle Joe drive it on in. Well, Coach May allowed us. Yeah, give it up to Coach May. He knew what he was doing. Coach May allowed the assistant coaches to take the team right up to the CSL championships, and he took over. So he'd win the CSL championships, the sectional, and if we're lucky enough, one of these gorgeous state trophies. As a mentor, there was none no better. The love he had for Evanston boys track, the love he had, nothing against football, Larry, the love he had for the Michelin family. Michelin family always came out and supported Coach May. Coach May always came and supported the Michelin family. We just had that bond. When I had the opportunity to become the principal of Haven Middle School, you know, that's such an outstanding honor. I had to resign coaching at the high school, and we had a team that was going to be really, really good, and I went to tell Coach that I went and showed him my letter of resignation, and he once again he was disappointed in me, but he understood. You see, he prepares people to take it to that top level. He understood the top level. He's been there. So he didn't deny me that opportunity. I had to go anyway. But when I retired and had the opportunity to come back as the head coach, he came back as my assistant. Check this out. Olympian, Big Ten champ, All-American, Hall of Famer. He gonna come back and assist one of his student athletes? You see, he didn't have to dance every dance, sing every song. He could lead from that second spot. In fact, he was probably more effective there. You see, I'd been in that spot so long for him, and he wanted to make sure that I was doing it right. Let's be honest. What this means to the community, to all the track fans, to be a part of this great honor, this great guy. For the people that didn't know him, just like with the Olympic champions here, they're different. They've done it at the highest level. They're different people, great people. Coach May walked through these halls, and many of these kids didn't know who they were. Great. He didn't walk great, but he's great. And they didn't know that. Before the last time I seen him, sitting on that rail over there, and I didn't know how sick he was. Mrs. May shared that with me years later was that he was extremely ill. And, but he had to come to Evanston. He had to coach with me, and I always felt honored by that. And we'd always open up this door for him, and he'd come in and he'd coach like nothing was wrong with him. But the assistant coaches seen it, but I didn't see it. I guess the love of Coach May and having my buddy with me it blinded me from the truth, and that he was very ill. And so the last thing he said to me, and this is not sad, we're not going to be sad. The last thing he said to me, and I was upset, superintendent, but it got worked out. Board president, it got worked out. Being a principal, I know things can be moved along a little quicker, and I was having an issue with a department here with one of our student athletes, and we were working through it with the parent and the department, but it was going through the channels. And I told Coach May, I said, if things don't go right with this young man, I'm gonna retire. I'm not gonna continue coaching. And I remember he grabbed my arm and he said, Coach, don't leave. If it doesn't work out for him, there'll be others that you have to fight for, and it'll work out for them. And that's the last thing he said to me. And then he walked that slow walk to that door and went out that door. And there's not a day that doesn't go by that the track staff, we don't relive him or tell a story about him or talk about decisions we made and how he is still a part of that right now, because why change what works? And Willie May works. Thank you.
We've heard about Coach May, the Olympian, Coach May, the football coach, and Coach May, the track and field coach. But another real important role that he had here at ETHS was to serve as our athletic director. And nobody knew him better in that role than his co-athletic director, Shirley Nanini. Together, they transformed the athletic department from the old school male-dominated athletic program to gender inclusion and Title IX responsibilities to make all of our students get an opportunity to play sports here at ETHS. And that was a significant opportunity for all of our young women here at ETHS. So to talk about that and share some other great stories, please welcome Shirley Nanini.
If Willie were here, he'd say, Shirley, it's too much. It's too much. I don't need everybody getting up there and blowing smoke. This is a fitting honor, but awards really aren't the measure of a man. And they didn't define Willie as an athlete or a coach or a person. What defined Willie was how he lived his life. I never once heard him boast of his accomplishments. When we were co-athletic directors, we spent a lot of time together, and the stresses of the job as athletic director give you a glimpse into the heart and the mind of a person. When state swimming parents made counterfeit tickets to get into the state swimming meet, I also found out what an excellent private investigator Willie was. He was like Inspector Clouseau. He was one of the fairest and most honorable people I've ever known. He was a supporter of Title IX, and when the other schools in the state were fighting, the athletic directors for boys and girls were fighting, Willie and I were working together. And he was behind equality because he was a fair person. And he'd seen a lot of inequality in his life. With Willie, what you saw was what you got. He was not a touchy-feely guy, as everybody's indicated. He was a wise man, though. He was my friend and my advisor, and I was often the benefactor of his wisdom. I'm Italian, and so occasionally I go off and act maybe without thinking. But Willie's measured ways and his sage advice were always something that made a big difference for me. One of the things, maybe the biggest thing that Willie told me that I will always remember is, if you're going to err on the side of the student. That's why you've heard today from the people who he's made a difference for. Because it wasn't always popular. Occasionally, there was something where an adult was standing strong on something, but it really wasn't the right thing. And Willie said, if you're going to err on the side of the student. Because he knew how important it was for these young people. One of my former athletes I saw and went out for a drink with not too long ago, and she said that her brother had run for Willie May and that Willie May had saved his life because he was having such a difficult time adjusting. He made a difference. He really did. He had other talents, and it wasn't until today that I realized that his track prowess was in his DNA in more than obvious ways. I used to call him Mr. Map, because if you wanted to go anywhere in the state, he had the most detailed description. He'd tell you when you got to mile marker 109. He was a GPS before there was a GPS. Norma grew up in southern Illinois, in Cairo, and so Willie had the entire state at his fingertips. And I started thinking that might be why he never lost his way to the finish line. He wasn't perfect. He'd go to sleep at meetings. But maybe he was just resting up for the race. He had an incredible memory. When a kid would come back 10 years after he graduated, first of all, Willie'd remember what year he graduated, which I never could do. And then he'd quote their race times. He could have been a math teacher, but he used his math skills for track. I think it was his destiny. In 50 years, when some young freshman goes up and reads the plaque to find out who this Willie May guy was, he may be inspired to work a little harder. And hopefully that freshman won't have to confront some of the hurdles that Willie May encountered on and off the track. If we could all live our lives with the grace that Willie May did, it would be a better world. Thank you. And now it is my honor and privilege to introduce Norma May and her grandson, who will first unveil the sign for the Willie May Fieldhouse.
Good evening. The May family would like to profoundly thank the Evanston community, the Board of Education, Pat Savage Williams, Superintendent Dr. Eric Weatherspoon, Athletic Director Chris Levantino, the ETHS staff, alumni, coaches, athletes, friends, and speakers. Hayes Jones, Judge Axelrod, Coach Michelin, and Shirley Nanini. Chris asked me to speak about Willie and his family. Totally different than what you heard earlier about what he was like at home. Orange and blue always ran in my husband's blood. Many of you have heard the stories about him receiving the call from Ron Helberg from the press and in the newspaper. Ron called him and says, "Willie, would you like to join me at ETHS?" And Willie's response was, "Norma, I cannot turn down that opportunity. That school has such rich history, tradition, diversity, and the facilities." And the rest, of course, is history. Throughout his career, he had the opportunity to move on to other coaching positions, but his loyalty was always to the orange and the blue. Many of the lessons he imparted upon his athletes, such as the importance of having integrity, doing well in school, making those grades, and living a healthy lifestyle, he also stressed at home for our daughters, Kristen and Karen. He was a dedicated father and combined a loving touch along with discipline and a reminder to never give up. Keep it going, don't quit. While Willie was an humble person, that he never really talked about his accomplishments even at home. He always gave his girls and put them first and his family first. We spent many hours at the field house at University of Chicago trying to keep up with Willie at track. Well, it was kind of hard sometimes. He taught the girls how to swim, how to ride their bikes, how to drive. He chaperoned Sweet 16 parties and teenage dances, and he always took time to attend their dance and piano recitals and their ice skating shows at the Robert Crown Center. On Sundays, it was always very special because we attended church, family dinners, watching TV shows, and pushing him to attend maybe favorite activities that I had planned. Family vacations were always very important, going to Disney World, Disneyland, Washington, D.C., New York, etc. And we always enjoyed going to school. But later on in life, he became the girls' beast of burden. Beast of burden? Yes, as we drove up and down Highway 57 going to U of I. And Willie always took his toolkit with him, just in case there was a breakdown, he had to fix something in the dorm room. And he says, "You know what? Now I know where all my money is going. It's going to U of I or later on to Northwestern." But the instant he became a grandfather, he became a totally different person. He was no longer Mr. May, Coach May, Daddy. He was Poppy. And we often joke with him in the family, say, "You let Miles and Chase get away with anything, everything." He just wanted to know if they were happy, what do you need, what can we do? And if he were here tonight, he would be very happy to know that both of Miles and Chase are good students, and Miles is a second-degree black belt. He enjoys basketball. Chase is a first-degree black belt, and he enjoys running track. And they are a member of his team and will always be a member of his team. He took them to get haircuts, just like with the girls. He became their chauffeur and driving them to extracurricular activities and always listening to the jazz music in his car. And I'd just like to share one story about your city and your coach in ETHS. While he was still coaching, he was coaching from his bed at Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota. He didn't hesitate to call Coach Michelin. It was indoor track season. We were there for a month. And we were approaching the Dan Phillips relays. Coach Michelin would call him, and he would talk to some of the athletes, giving him his words of wisdom. And he would refer all the information about them. And he would tell them, don't give up. I'll be back. I'll be back. So this evening, Willie is smiling down on all of us, sort of getting a kick out of all the attention, as Shirley said, and he's getting. This field house was really a second home to him. And I must say, it was a home also to me, because as a member of the English department and a reading specialist, many of my colleagues, we walked this track during our lunch hour a few years ago. We could walk them out and be back to that next class period. I don't know if we could do it today, though, but we did it then. But it's such an honor. And all I can say is thank you very much. And go Kits. You're our family.
Thank you, Norma, for sharing with us the stories of Coach May, the family man. It is hard to be a family man as a coach and as an athletic director. And he sounds like he was just as incredible in that role as he was to us here at Evanston. So thank you very much for sharing that side of his life with us. To all of our speakers, to all of our distinguished guests, to the Evanston community, this is a wonderful night to be able to pay tribute to one of the absolute legends and icons in ETHS athletics and as a school in general. Coach May is a legend, and he will forever be remembered as the namesake of the ETHS Willie May Fieldhouse. The family has offered and has provided an incredible meal from Hecky's for everyone here to enjoy this evening. So after you take your time to look at some of the items up here and walk around and meet and greet some of your friends that you haven't seen in a long time, we invite everyone back to the West Cafeteria, formerly known Boltwood Cafeteria, to dig in and enjoy some Hecky's barbecue and tell some more tales that maybe you can't tell up here on the podium, so we can continue to celebrate his legacy for the rest of the evening. And we also have a video for everyone to watch there as well. Thank you again for everybody being here tonight. Congratulations to Coach May and his family. And we'll see you here for a track meet tomorrow at 10:30 at the Willie May Fieldhouse.